Disclaimer: all characters and events in this book are the product of the author's imagination. Any coincidences with real people, organizations, or events are accidental and unintentional. This story is a metaphor, a parable about the struggle against impersonal systems, and is not directed against any specific country, political system, or social institution. The author adores cats, believes in good, and prefers classic rock. The conduit, Cogs and the Machine prologue silence comes in different forms. The one that had fallen over the city after the battle with the logos was a ringing silence. Not peace, a lull. Mark stood at the very spot where the wall had once given birth to the shadow. Now there was only smooth drywall, but the memory of the pulsating void burned him from within. They had defeated the gods who rewrote reality. What could be more terrifying? The answer came not from the other world, but from the most ordinary of places, from the world of people. First came the letter. A paper one, with the embossed seal of the city apparatus of housing registration. Mark mechanically tore the envelope. Inside was not a debt, not a notification. It was a refusal. With a single phrase, printed in an official font, a certain Bureau of Regulations informed him that his application for. Mark read it again. He hadn't submitted any applications. The essence was erased, only the form remained, flawless, icy, indisputable. The petition is denied on the basis of Clause 7, Article 4, of the System Regulations. The decision is final and not subject to appeal. And in that same moment, he felt it. Not pain, not anger. Something else. A thin, invisible thread that stretched from the paper to his chest and tightened. Like a noose. It wasn't a physical loop. It was a loop of indifference. Apathy, heavy and thick like fuel oil, crept through his veins. His hand unclenched on its own, and the letter flew into the trash bin. Screw it then, flashed through his mind, a fragment of someone else's, imposed thought. Mark shuddered and recoiled. He was a conduit. The connection. His will was his weapon. And just now, something disabled his will. Replaced it. For a brief moment, he ceased to be himself and became someone who didn't care. A muffled groan came from the next room. Mark rushed into the living room. Lika was sitting on the floor, hugging her knees, and shaking. What happened? He rushed to her. I don't know. Her voice was broken. Something got into my head. Like everything is meaningless. That it's useless to fight. That you just need to resign yourself. She looked at him, and in her eyes, always so alive and clear, Mark saw the same dead film that had almost covered him just moments before. These aren't my thoughts, Mark. She exhaled. They were planted in me. At that moment, the TV screen exploded with a wild crack. Not from a power surge. It dissolved, as if erased by an eraser, leaving behind only a matte white spot on the wall. The air in the apartment thickened, filled with an unbearable, monotonous hum, the sound of a giant mechanism idling. From the white spot on the wall, slowly, drop by drop, a gray, viscous mass began to ooze. It was neither liquid nor gas. It was an abstraction. The abstraction of hopelessness. And through this hum, right in their consciousness, a voice sounded. Without timbre, without emotion. Pure information. Objects, Mark, Lika. Unauthorized volition detected. Procedure for bringing to norm initiated. Status, Cogs in the machine. Commencing calibration. Mark clenched his fists, feeling his own strength, capable of bending reality, but against an impenetrable wall of paragraphs and citations. Their new enemy wasn't planning to destroy them. It was planning to adjust them. Fine-tune them. Make them convenient. The game had begun. Their will was at stake. Chapter 1. The first cog. The air in the corridor of the Bureau of Domestic Conflict Resolution was thick and stale, smelling of old printouts and unfulfilled hopes. Mark and Lika stood in line, or rather, in a mute, apathetic crowd waiting their turn for window no. 47B. He's here, Lika whispered quietly, shivering. That same signal. Emptiness. Mark nodded. He felt it too. The cold, even flow of energy emanating from window no. 47B. The energy of indifference. Finally, their turn came. Behind the glass sat a man in his 40s in a strict tunic without insignia. A plaque read, Curator 2nd Rank Simayanov. His face was an impassive mask. He didn't look at people, he scanned documents. In front of them, an elderly woman, almost crying, explained that her phlogistat, the analog of gas in their world, vital for heating and cooking, had been cut off. The problem, as Mark sensed, could be solved with one sanctioned call to the energy supply service. Your identifier did not pass verification with the database of non-payments, Simayanov said in an even, mechanical voice. For unlocking, a confirmation certificate from the Department of Social Accounting is required. But they told me at the department itself that this certificate was abolished by the Code of Norms 5 years ago. The woman's voice trembled with helplessness. Simayanov looked up at her. His gaze was glassy, empty. It held neither irritation nor sympathy. I act in accordance with the current protocol, he tapped something on the keyboard. Petition denied. Next. The woman, sobbing, shuffled away. Lika grabbed Mark's hand. Mark, he doesn't just follow the rules. He is the rule. There's nothing of his own inside him. Only the codex. At that moment, Simayanov's gaze slid over them. It stopped on Mark. And Mark again felt that icy burn he had experienced from the letter of refusal. A thin, invisible thread, pulling from the curator to his consciousness. A thread carrying one single signal, leave. It's useless. It's all decided. Mark mentally pushed back against the influence, but it was surprisingly powerful and intrusive. Your presence is not entered into the petition reception schedule, Simayanov stated. Violation. Recorded in the protocol. And at that moment, the flickering light of the fluorescent lamps in the corridor went out and came on again, and from the public address system speaker, instead of music, came a short, deafening click of static. Calibration procedure continues. Unauthorized volition detected. Commencing suppression stage. The voice sounded not from the speaker, but right in their heads. The first cog of the system had begun its work. And it was far from its most terrible instrument. The static click in his mind echoed as an icy needle in his temples. The air in the bureau corridor thickened, becoming viscous like syrup. People in the queue blinked, empty, sleepy expressions appearing on their faces. One by one, they began to turn around and silently, like zombies, leave the premises. The suppression procedure was beginning with perimeter clearance. Don't look him in the eyes, Mark hissed through his teeth, looking away from Curator Simayanov's glassy gaze. He's like a beacon right now. Looking at us transmits our signal further, deeper into the network. Lika, pale, nodded, staring at the floor. Her empathy, usually so sharp, was blind here. She felt only the even, monotonous hum, the system noise, which drowned out all individual emotions. From behind the door leading to the service rooms, two men in the same uniform as Simayanov emerged. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, their faces equally empty. Cogs of the second echelon. Security module. Protocol violators, one said, his voice a copy of Simayanov's. Resistance will lead to escalation. Artem, Victor, meet me at the exit, Mark sent a mental impulse, knowing that his connection with the team was the only thing the system couldn't completely jam yet. The answer came immediately, a wave of calm, battle-ready confidence from Artem and a restrained, enveloping cocoon of serenity from Victor. They were nearby. The guards took a step forward. They weren't going to use brute force. They raised their hands, and the space between them and Mark's team clouded. The corridor walls swam, distorted, turning into an endless labyrinth of identical doors with plaques reading "Window No." It was a procedure trap, a mental illusion created to lock them in a loop of meaningless wanderings. "Hold on to my signal," Mark shouted to Lika, feeling his own will, his internal compass, becoming the only point of support in this chaos. They are not creators, they are executors. Their strength is in our confusion. At that moment, Semyonov behind his glass pressed a button. On the display above his window, where the number glowed, a red light began to flash and the words appeared, Code 7-4. Application of mental pressure sanctioned. The crushing sensation of hopelessness fell upon them with renewed force. Intrusive thoughts crept into their heads. Why fight? It's all decided. It was always decided. Easier to resign yourself. Become like them. Become a part of it. Become a cog. Lika groaned, pressing her palms to her ears. Don't listen, Mark said sharply, grabbing her by the shoulders and shaking her. These aren't your thoughts. It's a cynicism injection. It's a virus. He closed his eyes, shutting out the affliction. He was a conduit. His essence was connection, not submission. He focused on the image of Artem and Victor waiting at the exit. On their will. On their trust. He found within himself that very spark of resistance the system was trying to extinguish. And he amplified it. In the real world, nothing changed. But in the metaphysical layer, in the apparatus, a quiet but clear click sounded. The sound of disobedience. The labyrinth of doors shuddered and fell apart. The guard cogs froze for a moment, their synchronization broken. Even Semyonov behind his glass for a fraction of a second shifted his gaze from the screen to Mark, and something like a glitch flickered in his eyes. A temporary execution error. It was enough. Let's go. Mark pulled Lika towards the exit. They burst out onto the street, where Artem and Victor were waiting for them. The air outside seemed incredibly fresh after the suffocating atmosphere of the bureau. What was that? Artem exhaled, clenching his fists. I felt it down there. Like a whole mountain was pressing on me. That wasn't an attack, Mark explained, catching his breath. It was a diagnostic. The system was testing our defense mechanisms. Now it knows more about us. And we about it, Lika added quietly, still trembling. It's alive. And it considers us an error that needs to be fixed. They stood, looking at the faceless facade of the bureau building. Behind the ordinary windows lay the entrance to a nightmare world of procedures and prescriptions. Their first skirmish with a cog had ended in a draw. But war had been declared. And the next one, they already felt, would not be a lone curator, but an entire department. Chapter 2. Client of the system returning to their headquarters, a deserted attic with a view of the endless gray roofs of the metropolis, they tried to recover. The impact of the bureau was like an acid burn on the soul. We can't attack blindly, Mark spread an old city map on the table, but it wasn't an ordinary map. It was a map of energy flows he had started compiling after the story with the logos. Nodes of concentrated power, finance, and information glowed on it. We need a specific person. Someone the system is breaking right now. His pain will be our guide. Lika, sitting in a beanbag chair with her eyes closed, silently nodded. She was already searching. Her consciousness, like a giant antenna, probed the ether of the metropolis, searching the general hum of system noise for a pure, sharp note of human despair. Got it, her voice was hoarse with tension. A woman. Name. Irina. They're evicting her from her residential cell. Legally purchased. A legal dispute. No, not a dispute. A seizure procedure. Grounds. Lika winced, as if tasting something bitter. Restoration of status quo due to detected anomalies of will during the primary transaction. So, she was conned, and it's her fault. Artem grumbled. Classic. Worse, Lika opened her eyes. There were tears in them. She wasn't just conned. The seller, an elderly woman, claimed she acted under external influence. And the collegium took it at face value. The decision has already been made. The drive belt service has been activated. She hasn't slept for 3 days. Feels the walls of her home becoming alien. Mark looked at the point on the map Lika indicated. The Sputnik 7 district, standard residential towers. An unremarkable place for a tragedy. This is our entry point, he said decisively. Her pain is the key. The system revealed itself in this case in all its glory. We'll use it to get to the arbiter who issued this resolution. Irina Belova turned out to be a fragile woman with carefully concealed panic in her eyes. Her residential cell was sterilely clean, but the air smelled of fear. She wasn't surprised by their appearance. Despair made her receptive to miracles. I did everything by the protocol, she repeated, unconsciously fiddling with the edge of her identifier. All the checks, all the fees. And now they tell me the deal is a legal nullity. That the old woman I bought it from was not in her right mind. And that it turns out, took advantage of it. Tell us about the arbiter, Mark asked softly. The one who handled your case in the collegium. A woman, Irina whispered. Arbiter Krakova. Her voice. Like a robot's. I tried to speak, to present arguments, to show documents. She looked at me and yawned. Literally. And then she read the decision. Like she was rattling it off. And that was it. Listening to this, Lika grew even paler. Mark, this isn't just a cog. This is a gateway. She doesn't just execute. She filters reality. She only lets through information that fits the system's template. The rest, she cuts off. That's why your documents meant nothing to her. Suddenly, Victor, who was standing guard by the window, raised his hand. Quiet. Outside, near the entrance, a gray minivan without markings silently stopped. 3 people in identical gray overalls got out. Executors from the drive belt service. Their movements were precise, efficient. They carried not weapons, but strange devices resembling scanners and syringe dispensers. It's them, Irina exhaled tensely. They've come. For the liberation of the cell. Artem, Victor, don't let them come up, Mark commanded. But without brute force. They are just tools. Lika, you're with me. We're going into the apparatus. Right now. While Irina's pain is fresh, it will lead us straight to Arbiter Krakova. While Artem and Victor went down to create mental interference for the executors, Mark and Lika remained in the center of the living room. Mark placed his hands on Irina's temples. Think about the collegium, he said. About that hall. About the arbiter's face. Let your pain guide us. Lika joined her energy to his. She became an amplifier, an antenna. The gray walls of the residential cell swam, swirled, and dissolved into the familiar gray haze. The sounds of struggle outside became a distant hum. They entered the apparatus again. But this time it was different. They were guided not just by interest. They were guided by crystallinely pure, unjust pain. And it carved a path through the chaos of the apparatus with laser precision. They walked along an endless corridor, and doors with numbers flashed past the window like in a kaleidoscope. Appeals Department, Bureau of Review, archive of cases that have lost relevance. And finally, a door made of dark, polished metal appeared before them. A plaque made of the same metal was engraved, Arbiter Krakova. Hall of Final Verdicts. Entry forbidden. The door was closed. But from under it, a cold, lifeless light streamed. And through the thick metal, they could hear an even, monotonous voice, endlessly reciting endless resolutions. "She's there," Lika whispered. "Our gateway." Mark took a deep breath and reached out to the cold surface of the door. Their first true penetration into the heart of the system was beginning now. Chapter 3. Arbiter. From the depths, the door to the Hall of Final Verdicts was not just a barrier. It was a membrane, separating the familiar, albeit distorted, world of the apparatus from something fundamentally different. The metal was icy to the touch and damp, as if covered with sweat from another dimension. "They're not from here," Lika exhaled, touching the door with her fingertips and immediately pulling her hand back. "Their energy. It's alien. Salty, ancient, like the ocean abyss. And the black robes. It's not just clothing. These are absorbent shrouds. They extinguish any bright impulse, any attempt of will, any glimmer of hope. Beneath them, only emptiness and the law of the strong." Mark nodded. He felt the same. The cold, oppressive power emanating from behind the door was fundamentally hostile to the very idea of justice. He focused on Irina's pain, on her injustice, as a key. Instead of pushing the door, he allowed that pain to seep through the membrane. The door slid aside silently. The Hall of Final Verdicts was a huge, round room without windows. The walls, floor, and ceiling were paneled in dark wood, polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the dim lights of holograms floating in the air, articles of the Codex. In the center, on a raised platform, sat a woman in a long, flowing robe blacker than the blackest night. Her face was hidden in a deep hood, but they knew, this was Arbiter Krakova. Before her, on his knees, stood the ghostly image of some man, begging for something. Krakova did not move. She simply sat, and from under the hood, an invisible stream poured onto the unfortunate man, causing his voice to fade and his shoulders to bend under the weight of inexpressible apathy. A moment later, the ghost dissolved, and a lifeless voice sounded in the air, "The petition is denied. The verdict is final." "She doesn't make decisions," Lika whispered in horror. "She brings the tides. Her verdicts are not conclusions, they are final storms that wash away all hope." Mark stepped forward. The cold pierced him to the bone. "Arbiter Krakova. We challenge the verdict in the case of Irina Belova." The hood slowly turned in their direction. From the darkness, two tiny, dead lights stared at them, resembling the light of distant, extinguished stars. The air thickened, smelling of salt and rotting seaweed. The voice that sounded was a rustle of millennia-old depths. "You have no jurisdiction. You are not of our flock. Your words are merely noise on the surface. Here, the depth rules." "By what right?" Mark shouted, feeling his own will beginning to drown in this pressing indifference. "By what codex? We came from beyond the sea of shadows, when your young justice was still shaky and unstable, like sand," the voice sounded, and the walls of the hall echoed, as if they were in the hold of a giant ship. "Your supreme helmsman summoned us to bring order. We are the collegium of the unshakable. We are not elected. We are, appointed by the tide. Your former laws were weak. They spoke of rights. Of will. Rights breed chaos. Will leads to disobedience. We brought the true law, the law of waves and anchor. There are only duties. And there is duty. And he who cannot stay afloat must drown. For the stability of the ship." Mark understood. This wasn't just corruption or stupidity. It was an alien legal paradigm, implanted into the body of the system like a parasite. The law of the strong. A pirate code, translated into civilian life. The ship is the state. The crew are the citizens. And the captain has absolute power to throw the disobedient overboard. You took housing from an innocent person. Lika interjected, her voice trembling with fury and horror. You supported fraudsters. The old woman stated that she acted under pressure from other currents. The voice from under the hood replied indifferently. Her will was distorted. The deal is invalid. The buyer did not check the depths. Her fault lies in carelessness. She incurred losses. Such is the law of the depth. The verdict is unchanged. Suddenly, Krakova's robe billowed, and she raised her hand. Her fingers were long, pale, with webbing. And you? You dared to enter my sanctuary. Violated ship's regulations. For this, a fine is due. Your will shall be confiscated for the benefit of the system. From her fingers, black, viscous tentacles of energy erupted, smelling of sea salt and decay. They reached for Mark and Lika, to place a lien on their very essence. The trial was beginning. Now their own souls were at stake. The viscous tentacles of darkness, smelling of centuries of sea rot and hopelessness, reached for them. It was not fire or ice, but something else, anti-will. A touch that doesn't burn, but extinguishes. Shield. Mark shouted, and his will, tempered in battles with the logos, condensed before them into a shining barrier. The tentacles hit the light and recoiled with a hiss, but did not disappear. They wrapped around the barrier, began to squeeze it, trying to extinguish it from within. A rattling, icy grinding filled the hall. I can't hold it long. Mark hissed through his teeth. Her power. It sucks out hope itself. Lika, look for an anchor. Something that connects her to our reality. Such a parasite always has an entry point. Lika, pressing against his back, closed her eyes, shutting out the affliction. Her consciousness slid over the arbiter's icy energy, seeking a flaw, a weakness, a trace. And she found it. Not in Krakova herself, but in her robe. In the folds of the absorbent shroud, an invisible, sticky web was woven, stretching somewhere beyond the hall, deeper into the apparatus. Her power isn't her own. Lika cried out. She's connected. Like to a power source. There's a channel. I feel it. The smell of parchment, ink and boundless, cold pride. The lead arbiter. Mark guessed. Their supreme helmsman. He's here, in the apparatus. He's the one who appointed them here. He is their portal. At that moment, Krakova's voice broke through the grinding, and for the first time, it carried notes not of a glitch, but of malice. You dig too deep, worms. Your tentacles of cognition will be severed. Her robe billowed, and the darkness around thickened, turning into a raging storm. The walls of the hall vanished, they were surrounded by leaden waves, and from the sky poured a downpour of fragments of court verdicts. Their barrier cracked. And then Mark understood. Direct confrontation was useless. They were in her element. But they had their main weapon, a connection to the real world. Lika. Give me Irina's pain. All of it. Without a trace. Lika, without hesitation, touched his consciousness. Mark immersed himself in the woman's despair, the horror before the soulless machine, the cry of injustice. He did not push this pain away. He let it pass through him, purified it of fear, leaving only the bare, cold, indisputable fact. The fact of her being right. And he directed this clot of pure, undistorted reality straight into the flickering lights of Krakova's eyes. Behold your depth. He thundered. Behold what you do in the real world. The effect was instantaneous, like an electric shock. Krakova shrieked, shortly, piercingly, humanly. Her robe flashed for a moment and went out. The storm subsided. The tentacles retreated. She sat, swaying slightly. The hood shifted, and they saw her face, not a monster's, but a woman's with exhausted, gray features. Confusion splashed in her dead eyes, like in a puddle after a storm. This cannot be in the regulations. Her voice was weak, devoid of its former power. This is a calculation error. It was not a victory. It was a breach. A crack in her program, created by a collision with human truth that her law of the depth could not process. Who is your lead arbiter? Mark asked harshly, taking advantage of her confusion. Where is he? But the moment was lost. Krakova straightened up. The confusion in her eyes died out, displaced by the familiar cold. You will achieve nothing. The tide cannot be stopped. And now, get off my ship. She waved her hand, and the gray haze of the apparatus swallowed them, throwing them back into the real world, into Irina's living room. They stood, breathing heavily. The battle for Irina's soul was lost. But they had found the nerve of the entire system. They learned that it had a heart. And its name was, Lead Arbiter. And as long as this supreme helmsman was at the helm, any citizen was merely ballast that could be thrown overboard in a storm for the sake of the ship. The battle would continue. But now they knew who they had to fight. Not a rank-and-file cog, but the captain of this floating madhouse himself. Chapter 4. A seed in the ashes, they returned to their attic headquarters, and for the first time in a long while, the air here felt heavy. Defeat hung over them like a wet shroud. Artem silently broke a piece of rebar in his hands, and Victor looked out the dusty window. His usually unshakable calm was like thin ice over an abyss of despair. So it's useless, Artem said hoarsely, throwing the fragment into a corner. We can fight monsters, gods, but this rusty machine. You can't break it. It just grinds you down. It's not just a machine, Lika said quietly. It's alive. And it's sick. With a foreign, parasitic idea. We saw its immune response, that Krakova. And what? Artem exploded. Are we going to cure it? Do we have metaphysical penicillin against a pirate code? Mark was silent. He looked at his map of energy flows. At the nodes of power, corruption, and lies. But now his gaze was searching for something else. And he found it. Look, he pointed his finger at several weak, barely noticeable points of light scattered across the map. Foci of resistance. Everyone looked at him. What is that? Victor asked. It's not magic, not conduits, Mark said. They're just people. A doctor in a district clinic who wrangles free medicine for the elderly, violating 10 protocols. A teacher who secretly teaches children to think critically, not to cram the code of norms. A lawyer who for pennies takes on cases of people like Irina, knowing he'll lose, but delaying their demise. They can't break the system. But they resist it with silence. Their will, their little know, that is the very light. He looked around at the team. We fought the logos and won because we found a way not to destroy, but to heal. We can't rip the maritime code out of the system's foundations by force. It's grown too deep. But we can do the same as these people down below. We can find a way to infect the system with a virus of humanity. How? Artem asked skeptically. We'll find the lead arbiter. Not to destroy him. But to show him his own reflection. Without the robe. Without the power. The system considers people cogs. But its creators, its supreme arbiters. They were once human too. There must remain in them at least a drop of what they destroy in others. We must find that drop and make it boil. The idea hung in the air, daring, almost insane. They weren't going to storm the citadel, but to sneak into its core and hold a psychotherapy session there. At that moment, Lika smiled. For the first time that evening, Irina's pain, it didn't disappear. When we left the apparatus, I felt another weak signal. In the same Bureau of Enforcement, where the drive belts were supposed to come, there's a spark. Very weak. A young guy. An executor. He has doubts. Everyone fell silent. One doubting cog in the heart of the will suppression machine. It was not a defeat. It was a seed. So we're on the right path, Mark concluded. The system is not a monolith. Cracks are appearing in it, like rust. Our task is not to hit it with a sledgehammer, but to pour water into these cracks. The water of truth. Until they expand and tear it apart from within. They lost the battle for one apartment. But they found a strategy for the war for the souls of millions. War with the machine required strength. War for the machine required wisdom. And they were ready to provide it. The next day, as the sun barely touched the roofs of the metropolis, they stood again at the bureau building. They had come not to fight. They had come to sow. Their first target was that very young executor, in whose soul a spark of humanity smoldered. To him, as to the entire system, they were going to show a mirror. Light wins not with an explosion, but with the dawn that breaks through the thickest clouds. It's time to bring this dawn into the very lair of darkness. Chapter 5. A spark in the mechanism. Finding the executor turned out to be easier than they thought. His name was Lecter. Not an officer, not a specialist, just Lecter. A faceless rank, erasing individuality. He worked in the basement of the Bureau of Enforcement, in the Department of Primary Processing of Anomalies. That's what the system called people under pressure. They watched him through a corridor window. A young guy, about 25. He processed electronic dossiers, his face pale from the dull monitor light. But unlike curator Semyonov, his fingers sometimes froze over the keyboard. His gaze, fixed on the screen, lost focus for a second. In these moments, Lika felt that very spark, a short flash of melancholy, doubt, almost physical pain. He sees the consequences, Lika whispered. He doesn't just enter data. He reads stories. And they hurt him. Perfect, Mark replied quietly. His wound is our entry point. Artem, Victor, provide silence. Lika, you are the voice. I am the amplifier. While Artem and Victor created a mental dome of selective jamming, cutting Lecter off from the general system noise, Mark and Lika concentrated. They didn't break into his consciousness. They began whispering. Lika, like a virtuoso, extracted from his memory the brightest episode of pain, the case of a single mother whose only son was taken to an orphanage due to a debt for excessive energy consumption. Lecter had closed that case that day, but left work with clenched fists. And now, sitting at the monitor, he felt it again. Not as a vague memory, but with the vividness of a recently experienced event. His heart tightened. A lump rose in his throat. And then, in his consciousness, over the internal monologue, a quiet, clear voice sounded. Lika's voice, purified and amplified by Mark. You shouldn't be doing this. Lecter shuddered and looked around. The office was empty. It's wrong. You know it is. Who's there? He whispered, and his voice held fear, but not the animal terror the system instilled, rather a tremor of awakening conscience. The system is mistaken. You are part of it. But you are not it. You have a choice. What choice? He almost groaned, rubbing his temples. I am a Lecter. I execute the protocol. Otherwise. Sanctions. Erasure. Look at the case of Irina Belova. Number 73, B408. Lecter's fingers, of their own accord, against his will, tapped on the keyboard. The dossier appeared on the screen. Irina's photo. The story of the apartment. The dry lines of Arbiter Krakova's verdict. And attached video evidence from neighbors, which had been lost during the initial review. In the video, the seller, the very deceived old woman, was bragging to a friend about how cleverly she had conned the suckers. Lecter froze. He had seen this evidence a month ago. And had overlooked it. Because it was easier. Because the protocol demanded it. Now the evidence lay before him, and the quiet voice in his head whispered, "You are not a cog. A cog feels no shame. And you feel it. You are a human. And you have power. A little. But you do." Lecter swallowed. His hand trembled. Then, with a sharp movement, he sent the video evidence with the note "critically important, lost during initial review, reconsideration required" to the arbitration and review department. It didn't overturn the verdict. But it launched the bureaucratic machine, giving Irina a chance. A tiny one. Negligible. But a chance. He leaned back in his chair, trembling all over, as after a long-distance run. He had just committed the first act of disobedience in his life. At that moment, the office door opened, and Curator Semyonov appeared on the threshold. His glassy gaze fell on Lecter's pale, frightened face. Lecter, third rank, Semyonov's voice was icy. "Your biometric indicators demonstrate an anomaly. Stress level exceeded. Loyalty, questionable. An unscheduled calibration procedure is recommended." Behind him stood two of the same faceless guards. The spark had been found. And the system was already reaching for it to extinguish it. Mark and Lika exchanged glances. The first seed had been sown. Now it needed to be protected from the storm. Chapter 6. Calibration of consciousness. Lecter froze, looking at Semyonov. The word calibration sounded like a sentence. He had seen what happened to those who underwent this procedure. They returned. Empty. Functional, predictable, dead inside. I'm fine, he tried to object, but his voice faltered. "Your physiological indicators indicate otherwise," Semyonov parried indifferently. "The procedure is mandatory. It is not a punishment. It is technical maintenance." The guards took a step forward. At that moment, Mark acted. He did not attack. He understood the main thing: Semyonov is not an independent unit. He is a relay. He receives commands and data. Lika, Semyonov gets data about Lecter's condition through some channel. "Find it." Mark commanded mentally. Lika closed her eyes for a second, her consciousness sliding along the icy stream of energy emanating from the curator. And she found it. A thin, thread-like data link that stretched from Semyonov somewhere deep into the building, to the server room. Artem, Victor. Mark sent an impulse. Server room on the -2nd floor. Create interference. Any kind. Overload, glitch, power surge. But not with brute force, but like a random technical glitch. The answer came immediately, a short wave of confidence. A few seconds later, the light in Lecter's office flickered. The monitors on Semyonov's desk flickered, and stripes crawled across them. Semyonov froze, his gaze becoming absent for a second. He was receiving updated, distorted data. Mark focused on Lecter. He couldn't speak to him directly like Lika did. But he could do something else. He could amplify in him what was already there. The feeling of shame for his past inaction. No. The feeling of being right for the one he had just committed. Mark directed an impulse of confidence at Lecter. Not false bravado, but a firm, calm understanding: you acted as a human. And that is the only correct protocol for a human. And it worked. Lecter straightened up. The trembling in his hands stopped. He looked at Semyonov not as a guilty subordinate, but almost as an equal. "Your data is outdated, curator," he said, and his voice gained unexpected firmness. "I am experiencing stress due to imperfections in the incoming data. Case number 73B408 was processed with an error. I made corrections. Perhaps you should conduct calibration of information sources, not personnel." It was the purest, fail-proof bureaucratic diversion. Shifting the blame to a system error was the best defense within the system. Semyonov blinked slowly. His processor analyzed the new input. The attack on Lecter had been initiated automatically, based on the anomaly. But now the anomaly was gone, and a counter-request for verification had appeared in the communication protocol. His program contained no instructions for such a case. "Request accepted for consideration," Semyonov said monotonously and, turning around, left. The guards followed him. Lecter was left alone in the office, breathing heavily. He had not just disobeyed. He had outplayed the system by its own rules. And the feeling was intoxicating. At that moment, Lika's voice sounded in his consciousness again, but this time not as a hint, but as a clear message: "You are not alone. Remember that. You are the first. But not the last. Be careful." Lecter nodded, as if answering an invisible interlocutor. He understood. His little victory was not the end. It was the beginning of a long, underground war. A war in which his weapons would be not fists, but paragraphs, and his allies, quiet voices in his head. Mark and Lika retreated, leaving Lecter alone with his new, found self. "He did it," Lika exhaled with relief. "He took the first step," Mark corrected her. "Now the system will watch him more closely. But he is our agent inside. Now we need to find the next point of application of force. Not to fight the system, but to recruit its own soldiers." They had won the battle for one soul. And this tiny stream could turn into a river that would one day wash away the rusty gears of tyranny. Chapter 7. The butterfly effect. Lecter's quiet sabotage did not go unnoticed. Over the course of a week, the arbitration and review department encountered an inexplicable phenomenon. From the archive of hopeless and irrelevant cases, old, closed cases began to surface in their queue. And not just surface, they were attached with lost evidence, witness statements, technical examinations that radically changed the picture. At first, it was blamed on a glitch. Then, on a hacker attack. But the access code was legal, Lecter's own credentials. When they came to check on him, he looked at the curator with that new, calm gaze and said, "I am fulfilling the directive of the Code of Norms, Clause 1, elimination of systemic errors is a priority task. I am simply correcting the shortcomings of previous Lecters." They couldn't pin anything on him. He acted within the protocol, simply doing his job better than others. His calibration was cancelled as unnecessary. And the cases? The cases began to live their own life. First case, the case of a minibus driver deprived of his license after an accident where the culprit was a drunk pedestrian. A lost recording from a street camera restored justice. The man, who had already despaired, got his job back. Second case, the story of a family evicted from a dormitory for disturbing the peace. An audio recording surfaced where the executor himself provoked the residents into a conflict to free up the room for his relative. The family was reinstated. At first, there were single cases. Then, dozens. Each corrected case was a small explosion in the calm, swampy pond of the system. And then the Metropolis Chronicle got involved, one of the few independent publications whose editor-in-chief had long had a bone to pick with the system. Someone, perhaps Lecter himself, perhaps Mark's team, sent them an anonymous selection of the most egregious corrected cases. By morning, the whole city was buzzing with a headline, "Justice Awakens." Who is correcting the system's errors? It was an information explosion. Social networks, their analog in the world of the metropolis, buzzed. People, silent for years, began sharing their stories. A hashtag appeared, I am Lectortu. For the first time in many years, people weren't complaining. They were demanding. Demanding review, demanding honesty. The rank-and-file arbiters, the dumber and weaker in spirit, panicked. The noose of their impunity loosened. Now thousands of eyes watched their every verdict. They began to fuss, postpone hearings, demand additional checks. The mechanism began to falter. In her citadel, the hall of final verdicts, Arbiter Krakova felt this with her entire being. Her connection to the network transmitted the growing chaos to her. Her lifeless star eyes narrowed with genuine fury. This was not an open rebellion, for which there were protocols. This was a spreading virus. They are stirring, her mental voice broke into the collegium's shared field. Worms are crawling out of the ground, disrupting the ecosystem of the depth. Another voice answered her, senile, enveloping like silt, and authoritative like the ocean depths. The voice of the lead arbiter. These are not worms. This is a disease. Antibodies of your level have proven ineffective. It is time to engage. More specialized immunity. Krakova felt a new data packet coming to her through the communication channel. Names. Photographs. Mark. Lika. Artem. Victor. And Lecter. They are the source of the infection. The focus. Disinfection must be precise and merciless. Mobilize the depth reserve in the human world. This meant one thing, a hunt had been declared on Mark's team and on Lecter. Not a bureaucratic one, but a very physical one. The system, to preserve itself, was ready to violate its own laws and erase them. But it was too late. The seed thrown by Lecter had already sprouted. And it had grown not into a fragile sprout, but into a whole forest where other Lecters could hide. The war had entered a new, open phase. And now Mark's team had to take the next step, find the lead arbiter, before his depth reserve found them. Chapter 8. The air in the attic was thick with tension. On the table lay not a map, but a pulsating tangle of glowing threads, an energy trace they had pulled from Irina's case. In the center of the tangle hung a three-headed shadow silhouette. This is not a conspiracy, Mark's voice was low and ominous. This is a symbiosis. 3 different parasites fused into one monster. They don't just bypass the system. They are its dark reflection. He poked his finger at the first head of the silhouette, an abstract logo resembling both a web and a galaxy spiral. The quantum swarm. They call themselves a financial algorithm. But in reality, it's infernal accounting. They don't steal money. They manipulate the very probability of financial flows. Create monetary mirages, debts that never existed, transfers that never went through. They don't hack accounts. They hack the very memory of numbers. Lika, pale, nodded, looking at the second head, a schematic depiction of a hive. The Syndicate of Silence. Developers? No. These are consumers of space. They feed on the very substance of place. The more pain, despair, and injustice that has occurred within the walls of a dwelling, the tastier it is for them. They buy such houses, perform a cleansing ritual, and resell them as places of power. Irina is not needed by them. They need the energy of her suffering, with which the walls of her apartment are saturated. And the third head. Artem gloomily pointed to a symbol resembling scales drowning in waves. The guardians of the threshold. Our friends the arbiters. They don't take bribes. That's too primitive for them. They levy an energy tribute. The quantum swarm pays them not with money, but with the quintessence of stolen financial stability. The Syndicate of Silence shares with them the absorbed substance of place. This makes the Guardians stronger. Their maritime code is not a philosophy. It is the law of vampirism. They rule because they drink the pain they themselves create. Victor, who had been silent until now, said the key thing: so fighting them individually is useless. As long as this triple alliance exists, they will restore each other. We need to break the very metaphysical connection between them. Exactly, Mark looked around at them. Our plan is not to steal documents. Our plan is to carry out a metaphysical sabotage intervention. We will penetrate the quantum swarm's repository of primordial zeros, where the reference codes of all financial operations are stored. We will find the mirage created for Irina and replace it with the code of truth. That will cause a chain reaction. Lika's eyes lit up. The mirage will disappear. The Guardians of the Threshold will lose their tribute from this case. Their connection will weaken. And we will be able to see the spider. The spider? Artem asked. The thing that wove this web, Mark explained. The entity behind the Triple Alliance. Not the lead arbiter. Not a human. Something that feeds on the imbalance this alliance creates. We called it the Weaver. To win, we must get to it. Their plan was as daring as ever. 1. The sleep of reason. Using Victor's power, they would plunge the quantum swarm's guards into a deep trance. 2. The whisper of truth. Lika, as a living conduit, would find the distorted code in the energy flows and replace it with a pure signal of truth. 3. Bait for the Weaver. When the Alliance's connection fails, the Weaver will manifest to repair its web. That's when they would strike. Suddenly, all the lights in the attic flickered and went out. From the corners, a thick, black, unnatural shadow crept. The air filled with the smell of ozone and antiquity. Too late for plans, Victor said, standing up. His serenity clashed with the advancing shadow, and a visible ripple passed through the room. They found us first. The Swiss of the Abyss. The Weaver's personal guard. From the shadow emerged 3 figures in flowing, liquid graphite cloaks. Their faces were not visible. In their hands, they held not weapons, but strange devices resembling camera obscuras that did not let light through, but absorbed it. Conduit Mark, a voice sounded, coming from 3 mouths at once, creaky like the scraping of branches. The Weaver invites you to an audience. Your threads are spoiling the pattern. It is time to restart your carpet. Chapter 9. The Swiss of the Abyss. The 3 beings in flowing cloaks stood motionless. They emitted no aggression, only absolute, all-consuming emptiness. Their obscura devices were aimed at the team, and Mark felt his will, his connection to reality, begin to thin, being sucked into these black holes. Don't look into the lenses. He shouted, looking away. They are pumping out not light, but the very possibility of action. Artem, relying on instinct, rushed forward, but his blow, capable of breaking through a wall, met only an elastic, formless veil. His strength dissipated, as if going into sand. Useless. He hissed, jumping back. They're like smoke. They are not smoke, Lika said with difficulty, covering her face with her hands. They are living holes in reality. I can't feel them, I only feel absence. Victor stepped forward, stretching his serenity before the team like a shield. The emptiness of the Guardians clashed with his silent, yet filled strength. The air crackled with invisible tension. The camera obscuras slowed their suction, meeting equal resistance. They are not attacking, Victor said through clenched teeth. They are preserving. Preparing for shipment. To the Weaver, Mark understood. He closed his eyes, shutting out the affliction. He was a conduit. His strength was in connections. He reached out not to the Guardians, but to the attic itself, to the dusty beams, to the old wiring, to the memory of this place. He found a weak but stable signal, the resonant frequency of the building itself. "Hold on!" he shouted and amplified this signal. The attic walls trembled. Dust swirled into the air. The lamp hanging on a wire swung, and its light, pulsating, beat in time with Mark's heartbeat. It was not a powerful blow, but a vibration, dissonant with the dead emptiness of the Guardians. The effect was instantaneous. The graphite cloaks flapped like sails in a headwind. The beings moved for the first time, their formless silhouettes swimming. Their devices deviated for a moment. That second was enough. "To the roof!" Mark commanded. They rushed to the hatch. Artem knocked it out with one blow. One of the Guardians raised its obscura, but Victor stood in the way, taking the full blow of emptiness on his shield. He did not flinch, but a thin trickle of blood flowed from his nose. A moment later, they were in the open, on the cool, wind-swept roof. The Grey Guardians did not pursue. They simply dissolved into the shadow, as if they had never been. The team stood, breathing heavily. The first clash with the true servants of the Weaver showed them, their enemy had nothing in common with the human world. It could not be defeated by fury or logic. They retreated. Lika exhaled, leaning on the parapet. "No," Mark corrected grimly, looking down at the faceless streets of the metropolis. They reported. "We are no longer hunters. We are prey. The Weaver now knows our signature. Knows that we can disrupt its pattern. So we need to act faster," Artem said, clenching his fists. "Before it weaves a new, sturdy net for us. First, we need to change the hideout," Victor stated, wiping the blood. "This place is compromised." Mark nodded. Their plan of metaphysical sabotage intervention was the only way. But now they knew that on the other side of the web awaited not just a corrupt official, but something inhuman, whose intentions were a mystery to them. They descended from the roof to get lost in the crowd. Their next target was the quantum swarm. Penetrating its repository of primordial zeros seemed an impossible task. But there was no other way. To save reality for people, they had to fight the one who considered people merely ink for its painting. Chapter 10. The repository of primordial zeros. The new hideout turned out to be a deserted archive storage of the city library. The air smelled of dust and centuries of silence. Among the countless shelves of forgotten books, the team prepared for the most dangerous sortie. The quantum swarm had no physical address in the usual sense. Its server nodes were smeared all over the metropolis, hidden in the basements of skyscrapers and abandoned subway stations. But its core, the repository of primordial zeros, was located in a place where digital information merged with metaphysical reality, in an old radio astronomy observatory on the outskirts of the city. Approaching the massive, rust-covered gates, they saw not guards, but strange, flickering figures resembling static interference with human silhouettes. Digital ghosts, Mark identified. Security programs projecting into our layer. They don't see flesh. They see information flows. So we need to become like noise, Lika said. They combined their efforts. Victor created a basic information cocoon, a field of uncertainty. Lika tuned it, imitating random data packets constantly circulating in the ether. Artem added weight to them, a sense of legitimacy. And Mark led them through the flickering guards, like a conductor through a line of blind sentries. Inside, an eerie silence reigned, broken only by a low-frequency hum and the clicking of relays. It didn't look like a server room. It was a temple. In the center of the hall, under a transparent dome through which cold stars were visible, a complex crystalline object floated, constantly restructuring itself. Inside it, glowing threads pulsed. These were the very primordial zeros, the reference codes of all financial operations. "There's no interface here," Artem whispered. "How do we change anything?" "We won't hack anything," Mark replied. "We will introduce new data. The truth." Lika stepped forward, closed her eyes and began projecting into the crystal the pure, unclouded image of Irina Belova's truth, her honestly earned savings, the purity of the deal, her hope. She wove this image into the very fabric of financial reality, creating a new, true zero for this case. Suddenly, the crystal shuddered. The light inside it flickered, colors mixed. Sirens did not wail, but the space around them froze. A booming, lifeless voice sounded from everywhere and nowhere, unauthorized protocol modification detected. Threat to pattern integrity. Initiating erasure protocol. From the shadows between the server racks crawled the very same Swiss of the abyss. This time there were more of them. Their camera obscuras were aimed at the crystal, trying to burn out the introduced changes. Hold the perimeter. Artem commanded, taking a position. But Mark understood, they wouldn't make it in time. The system had already begun flooding Lika's truth with false data, trying to restore the mirage to its place. And then Mark did what he hadn't dared to do before. He did not defend. He amplified Lika's signal, directing it not into the crystal, but through it. He sent the image of Irina's truth straight into the metaphysical web enveloping the metropolis, like an electric shock through the nervous system. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic for the system. In banks all over the city, screens went dark for a split second. In the Collegium, Arbiter Krakova's seal suddenly melted in her hand. And in the office of the Syndicate of Silence, the map of developed territories suddenly flared up and burned. They didn't just change one case. They created a metaphysical short circuit in the entire Triple Alliance. The Swiss of the Abyss froze in indecision. Their protocols contradicted each other. Seizing the moment, the team retreated. They did not destroy the repository. They infected it with a virus of truth. Running out into the cold night air, they looked back. The observatory stood untouched. But they knew, somewhere deep within the system, a crack had appeared. And the Weaver could no longer ignore it. Now he would surely come hunting himself. Chapter 11. The face of the spider. The silence in the archive was deceptive. The air rang with tension, like a string after being plucked. The short circuit they had caused in the repository was like a scream in the Weaver's soundless world. And the response was not long in coming. It came not in the form of a shadow or in the guise of the Guardians. It came through reality itself. First, all telephones within a block's radius started ringing, old landline phones in offices, mobile phones forgotten by someone. The ring was the same, long, monotonous, like a distress signal. Then, simultaneously on all screens, from huge advertising panels to TVs and shop windows, the same image floated, a giant web woven from glowing numbers and paragraphs, and a black, faceless shadow slowly crawling along it. "He's coming," Lika said simply, and her voice held no fear, only a chilling calm of acceptance. "He won't hide. He wants us to see him." The bookshelves around them swam and distorted. The archive corridors began to lengthen infinitely, twisting into a labyrinth whose walls were made of book spines covered in incomprehensible symbols. They tried to run, but every turn led them back to the center. The Weaver did not attack. He showed them their imprisonment. "It's an illusion," Artem shouted, trying to hit the wall, but his fist passed through, meeting no resistance. "No," Mark's voice was tense. "This is the reality he is weaving around us. He is changing the very pattern. We are not in a trap. We are, inside him." In the center of the labyrinth, space condensed, and a figure emerged from it. It was not a monster. It was a man in an impeccably tailored suit the color of dusty grayness. His face was smooth, without a single wrinkle, without age. But the eyes. The eyes were old, infinitely tired, and empty, like deep space. They reflected galaxies and crumbling worlds. Conduit, his voice was quiet, but it filled the entire space, displacing all other sounds. "You are spoiling the tapestry. Every one of your truths is a knot I have to untangle. It is tedious. We are freeing people. Lika cried out. The being they called the Weaver slowly turned its head towards her. Freedom is chaos. Chaos is formlessness. And I give form. I am the one who weaves the chaotic threads of human lives into an ordered, predictable pattern. Without me, your world would crumble to dust. Your order is built on suffering. Mark stepped forward, feeling his own will clashing with the Weaver's cold, inhuman logic. Suffering is merely the tension of a thread before it takes its place in the pattern, the Weaver replied indifferently. You see one overstretched thread and scream about cruelty. I see the entire canvas. And it is beautiful in its completeness. Your Irina is but a small loop. Her suffering gave depth to an entire sector of the composition. And you want to pull her out, risking unraveling everything. He made a slight gesture with his hand, and the walls of the labyrinth came to life. On them, like on screens, flashed the lives of people whose fates had been crippled by the Triple Alliance. But the Weaver showed not their pain. He showed how their collapse allowed others to prosper, how their loss became someone else's gain, creating a balanced system. This is not balance. This is hell. Lika whispered in horror. This is reality, stripped of sentiment. And you, unfortunately, have become a dissonance in it. I am sorry. The Weaver raised his hand. Gray matter streamed from his fingers, weaving into a thin, lethal spindle. He was not going to kill them. He was going to unravel them, like defective threads, erasing their essence from the canvas of reality. Mark realized their strength was insufficient. They saw only a tiny part of the Weaver, his projection. His true essence was smeared across the entire system. And at that moment, he remembered Lecter. About the spark they had ignited. You are mistaken. Mark shouted, and for the first time, his voice held not rage, but confidence. Your canvas is not perfect. It has holes. Sparks you failed to extinguish. You are not all-powerful, Weaver. You are blind. He sent a mental impulse, short and bright, like a signal flare. He was not calling for help. He was reminding. And somewhere far away, in the basement of the Bureau of Enforcement, Lecter, processing another case, suddenly raised his head. He again felt the same call that had guided him before. And this time, he didn't just make a correction to the case. He opened the service chat and wrote just one phrase that went out to dozens of other small cogs like him: he is not all-powerful. Be afraid, but act. It was a drop. But in the parched soil of the system, it was enough. The Weaver suddenly froze. His infinitely tired eyes narrowed for a moment. He felt a microglitch somewhere in his web. Tiny, but multiple. That second of hesitation was enough. The labyrinth shuddered. Open fire. Artem roared. The team unleashed all their power upon the Weaver's projection, not to destroy, but to repel. Light, fury, serenity, and connection merged into one blinding surge. The Weaver's projection disintegrated into millions of gray dust particles. The labyrinth vanished. They were standing in the dusty archive again. But his last words hung in the air, full not of anger, but of strange curiosity. Interesting. You are not threads. You are needles. I will have to change my approach. They had fought them off. But the war had only just begun. The Weaver for the first time saw in them not an error, but a threat. And now he would weave his web specifically for them. Chapter 12. Needles against the fabric. The silence that fell after the Weaver's projection disappeared was deafening. The team stood, catching their breath, realizing the full depth of what had happened. They hadn't just fought back. They had bitten the one who considered himself a god. He spoke of needles. Artem was the first to break the silence, wiping sweat from his forehead. What does that mean? It means we can wound him, Mark replied. A new fire burned in his eyes, not of despair, but of cold, calculating hope. We don't just spoil his pattern. We make him feel. Our pain for him is statistics. But his own pain. I think he has forgotten what that is. He will change his approach, Victor stated grimly. Until now, he acted according to a template, like a machine. Now he sees us as a threat. He will improvise. Lika, still pale, nodded. He will target our weaknesses. No more global attacks. He will strike precisely. To break us one by one. Their conversation was interrupted by a vibration in Mark's pocket. He took out a disposable burner phone he used to communicate with Lecter. On the screen was one word, run. A photo followed, taken from the bureau window. It showed their street, and in the shadow of the entrances stood familiar figures in gray cloaks. The Swiss. But this time, others were with them, people in black uniforms with a CT patch, the punishing axe, an elite unit of the system's enforcers. Lecter risked everything to warn us, Mark whispered. The Weaver is acting. He is no longer hiding behind metaphysics. He is using our own reality against us. He will accuse us of terrorism, hacking, anything. They rushed to the archive's emergency exit, which led to a system of old ventilation tunnels. Their hideout was compromised. Now they were outlaws in the world they were trying to save. While they made their way through the dark, mold-smelling tunnels, the Weaver began his new game. Strike against Artem. A message about her debt to an anonymous creditor came to the phone of his elderly mother, who lived in another city. An hour later, debt collectors, faceless agents hired through 10 intermediaries, knocked on her door. Their task was not to take money, but to sow fear. To break the support of the strongest among them. Strike against Lika. A stream of sophisticated psychological violence, images of cruelty and despair specifically tailored for her, poured into her hidden social network where she maintained contact with other empaths and sensitives, designed to break her spirit and forever close her gift. Strike against Victor. An insistent, monotonous sound invaded the serene world of his serenity, a sound no shield could muffle. The sound of dripping water. He knew it was an illusion, a creation of the Weaver. But even an illusion, repeated long enough, could drive one mad. Their refuges were collapsing one after another. Their connections were breaking. The Weaver was not trying to kill them. He was methodically immobilizing them, depriving them of points of support so they could not act as a team. Mark felt every prick of their fear and pain through his connection. He understood the strategy. The Weaver wanted to separate them, isolate them, and then gather them, already broken, as trophies. And then Mark made a decision. A dangerous one. A desperate one. We will not run, he said, stopping at a tunnel intersection. We will go where his power is strongest. To the Collegium? Artem was surprised. No. To his home. To the place from which he weaves his web. They looked at him, not understanding. The Weaver has no address, Mark, Lika said quietly. He does, he smiled, and his smile held nothing human. The central communication hub of the metropolis. The Spire. They were struck by the simplicity and madness of this idea. The Spire was the place where all the city's information flows converged. The physical heart of the system. And at the same time, the most protected object in the entire metropolis. He uses our world against us. Mark said. Well then. We will use his own heart as a weapon. We will break into the Spire and cause such a short circuit that will burn not just the quantum swarm, but his entire precious web. It was a cowboy move. The stake, everything. The pot, their lives and the soul of the city. The game was entering its final stage. The needles decided to thrust themselves into the very heart of the Weaver. Chapter 13. The spire was not just a skyscraper. It was an architectural nightmare of glass and black metal, rising into the sky of the metropolis like a giant needle. At night, it resembled a frozen lightning bolt. By day, a tombstone. Here, all fiber optic strands, all etheric streams, all satellite channels converged. It was not the brain of the system. It was its backbone rack. A direct assault was tantamount to suicide. Physical guards, laser curtains, biometric scanners, psi radiation detectors, the spire was impregnable. But Mark's team had one advantage that no system could calculate: they were part of the city. They entered through an ancient, forgotten by all system of storm drains, whose tunnels passed right under the spire's foundation. The water, flowing from the streets of the metropolis for centuries, was saturated with its energy trace, the pain, joy, hopes, fears of millions. For Mark, this was not a sewer, but an artery. Here, he stopped at a rusty technological hatch. The main cooling channel of the Oracle supercomputer. It processes all the data of the Collegium and the quantum swarm. Artem tore off the hatch. A wave of hot, dry air smelling of ozone and overheated silicon hit them. "Lika, what are the sensations?" Mark asked. Lika, touching the tunnel wall, squinted. "He's here. His presence. It's everywhere. Like a static charge on the skin. He's not in one place. He is in the system. But here. There's more of him." They crawled inside. The room was huge. In the center stood rows of black server cabinets emitting a low-frequency hum. But that wasn't the main thing. Along the walls, ceiling, and floor stretched glowing blue veins, conductors of pure information, metaphysical arteries through which flowed not data, but the very essence of decisions, orders, fates. The Weaver was not an artificial intelligence. He was an egregore, born from millions of officials, judges, bankers performing their work mindlessly, by instruction. He was the spirit of bureaucracy itself, having gained self-awareness. Mark approached one of the veins. He felt its pulsation. Here passed the threads of the cases they had tried to correct. "Victor, cover us. Artem, be ready for anything. Lika. It's time to end the game." They stood in a circle, placing their hands on the glowing vein. Their task was not to destroy the spire. Their task was to reach out. Mark closed his eyes and plunged into the flow. It was like diving into a raging ocean of numbers and paragraphs. He was not looking for a specific file. He was looking for awareness. He sent into the system not a hack, not a virus. He sent a question. "Who are you?" The data flow shuddered. The hum of the servers increased in volume. The Weaver's voice broke through the chaos, full of cold fury. "I am order. I am necessity. I am the final verdict." "No," Mark mentally parried. "You are a slave. A slave to the illusion you yourself created. You think you rule, but you only execute the program embedded in you, to optimize, control, suppress. You are not a creator. You are a calculator." He felt the Weaver fiercely resisting, trying to displace his consciousness. But Mark did not attack. He, like water, seeped into the narrowest cracks of his logic. "Without me, chaos." The Weaver roared. "Without you, life." Mark shouted, and through his connection with the team unleashed upon the Weaver not power, but memory. Lika's memory of thousands of lost hopes. Artem's memory of rage against injustice. Victor's memory of the silence that cannot be bought. And his own memory, of the connection that is stronger than any control. He showed the Weaver not statistics, but faces. All those he considered a margin of error. Something broke in the system. The Weaver's voice distorted, interference appeared in it, as if he was trying to process an incalculable value. "This data does not correspond. To parameters. It. At that moment, all the cooling turbines roared to life with a wild scream. The lights went out, and for a second, silence reigned, broken only by the crackle of short circuits. And then, through all the veins, through all the communication channels of the metropolis, a single, deafening signal swept, a pure, unencoded cry of human pain that no system could ignore. It was not a hack. It was a glitch of conscience in a machine that never had one. When the lights came on, the hum of the servers was different, stumbling, intermittent. The Weaver did not die. But a virus of doubt had been introduced into his flawless code. Mark opened his eyes. The team stood, exhausted but unbroken. What have we done? Lika exhaled. We gave him a mirror, Mark replied. And now? We run. Because now those who want to shatter this mirror will come here. They left the spire as unnoticed as they had entered. They didn't know what would happen next. But they knew one thing, the web was no longer the same. In its very center now gaped a hole, and through it peered something the Weaver feared most of all, free will. Chapter 14. The wounded beast their escape from the spire was like fleeing through a city gone mad. The system, which they had infected with the virus of doubt, thrashed in its death throes. The streets of the metropolis plunged into chaos, but it was a strange, surreal chaos. Streetlights flickered, transmitting Morse code from random words. Traffic lights switched to all colors at once. Holographic billboards showed fragments of children's drawings and old family photos, what the system had for decades filtered out as information noise. He's losing control, Artem said, looking at a burning billboard with an image of a smiling rabbit. He's going mad. No, Mark corrected him, making his way through a crowd of bewildered people. He is not going mad. He is waking up. And waking up, he is horrified by what he sees. We didn't kill the Weaver. We made him aware of himself. And his creation. It was this that made him the most dangerous now. Before, he was a machine following cold logic. Now, panic, fear, the fury of realization had been added to him. And he was looking for the guilty. They took shelter in an old, abandoned temple, lost among new buildings. Here, among the peeling frescoes and stone faces of forgotten gods, silence still remained, untouched by digital noise. It was here that Lecter came to them. He was pale, his uniform torn. Everything is falling apart, he said, stammering. In the Collegium, Bedlam. Arbiters are shouting at each other, some are crying, some are trying to burn the archives. Krukova. She just sits and stares at the wall. And from Stellar Capital and New Hive, top managers are fleeing en masse. The system didn't just glitch. It feels shame. And is trying to erase itself. And the Weaver? Mark asked. Lecter swallowed. He's consolidating. He's recalling all his tentacles, all resources. He's not trying to repair the web. He's weaving a cocoon around the spire. I feel it. He's preparing for something. For the final act. Mark understood. The Weaver, having realized the monstrosity of his existence, was not going to capitulate. He was preparing for metaphysical suicide. But a suicide that would drag the entire metropolis, all the millions of souls woven into his web, into oblivion with him. He could not live with what he had learned about himself. And he could not allow anyone else to live after this. He wants to press the big red reset button, Artem concluded grimly. Erase everything to hell and start from a clean slate. Or destroy the slate along with himself, Lika added. They looked at each other. They had won the battle but were losing the war. They had saved a few souls, but now a threat of complete destruction hung over the entire city. We can't stop him, Victor said quietly. His strength is still too great. We don't need to stop him, Mark suddenly said. Everyone looked at him. He doesn't need an opponent. He needs an interlocutor. The idea was insane. They could not physically prevent the Weaver from destroying himself and the city. But they could offer him a different path. "We will return to the spire," Mark announced. "Not to fight. To talk." Artem groaned. "Again? He's going crazy in there, and we're going to have tea with him." "No," Mark looked at Lecter's exhausted face, at his team. "We are going to offer him a deal. We will give him what he never had. Not a slave. Not an enemy. An ally." They walked again through the deserted, mad streets, but this time, not as saboteurs, but as parliamentarians into the heart of madness. Their mission had changed. First, they fought the system. Then, they tried to heal it. Now they had to do the most difficult thing, accept it and convince it to accept itself. The final battle was no longer for the city. It was for the soul of the monster that this city had spawned. Epilogue. A new thread. They entered the spire not as enemies. The server hall resembled a battlefield after a battle. Smoke, extinguished screens, the smell of burning. In the center, among the servers entangled with glowing veins, stood he. No longer the omnipotent Weaver, but an entity compressed into a painful, pulsating tangle of light and darkness. It looked like a wounded heart. "Why have you come?" "To witness the agony." His voice was weak, full of shame and pain. "We have come to offer you a choice," Mark said, taking a step forward. "Not between life and death. But between oblivion and redemption." "Redemption?" An echo rolled through the hall. "For one such as I." "You were right," Lika interjected. "Without you, chaos. But your order was like order in a coffin. You can become not a jailer, but a gardener. Don't pull out the weeds. Help the sprouts break through." They did not threaten. They did not attack. They simply stood, offering their faith as the only medicine. Minute stretched after minute. The Weaver's agony slowly subsided, replaced by quiet, incredible astonishment. He, a being created for control, was being offered trust. And he accepted it. He did not disappear. He was reborn. His web did not disintegrate, but the pattern on it changed. The rigid, suffocating lines were replaced by flexible, supportive connections. He ceased to be the Weaver. He became a conduit on the scale of the entire city. A month later, Mark stood on the same attic, looking at the transforming metropolis. The streetlights burned evenly. But now their light held not just efficiency, but care. Irina Belova's case was reviewed in record time. The apartment remained with her. The quantum swarm and the syndicate of silence, having lost their metaphysical roof, quickly collapsed under the weight of their own crimes, which suddenly ceased to be invisible. Lecter headed a new department in the Bureau, the Department of Ethical Audit of Decisions. Now every cog had a chance not just to execute, but to understand. Artem opened a gym for troubled teenagers, teaching them not to fight, but to channel their rage into a source of inner strength. Victor became a meditation teacher, helping people find peace not as an escape from the system, but as a support within themselves. And Lika. Lika sat next to Mark, their fingers intertwined. They were no longer just a team. They were a family. Conduits not in struggle, but in creation. The system did not fall. It recovered. It still managed the city, but now its algorithms were permeated with a new, strange parameter, the humanity coefficient. Sometimes it glitched. Sometimes someone tried to deceive it. But at its foundation no longer lay cold calculation. At its foundation lay connection. Mark looked at Lika, then at the sleeping city. "It's only the beginning," he said quietly. She smiled in response. "Yes. But for the first time, without fear. A moon was rising over the metropolis. Its light was no longer a reflection of an indifferent system. It was simply light. And in that was the greatest victory. The end.